What do you say? What do you know? It's the Full Monty Sports Show with Nuts and Bolts Sports. Want to wish everyone a happy New Year's Eve. Thank you for watching the first half of the first show. We came on live for the Alabama-Cincinnati game, and numbers were exceptional. Really appreciate everyone tuning in and watching. We did this with the owner-operator of Nuts and Bolts Sports, Joe Cardozo. We are going to do that again in about 30 seconds. Make sure to subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel. Give us the thumbs up. And of course, follow me on social media on Twitter, MontyJP231. And of course, on TikTok, Monty Perez231. Again, give us a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel. And cheers, everyone. It is New Year's Eve. Joe's smiling backstage, but I got to imagine he's not happy. He's a diehard Michigan fan. Let's bring him on. Joe, how are you tonight?
I'm doing all right, man. Like I said in the last show, Monty, 1997 was a long time ago. We're just happy to be here. I mean, one of my friends put it best in the group chat we have. She said, you can make as many jokes and send as many memes as you want. Joe's been a fan of Michigan since the 90s. You're not going to break his spirit.
Yeah, no. And listen, game's not over. Looks
it's
pretty
over.
bad right now. I'm trying to be nice. All right. Before we get into Michigan, Georgia, let's talk about Alabama. Listen, Joe, I'm going to say this, and people are going to get pissed off at me. My brother's already angry about Georgia, Alabama. He's like, no one wants to watch. There's not an SEC bias in the country. When you look at the facts, LSU won a national championship. Okay. Alabama goes every year to the Final Four. You look at this team, Georgia's been there a few years in a row now. There's no SEC bias. I'm a Met fan. Okay. When the Mets make the playoffs, the fans are happy. When the Yankees make the playoffs and don't win don't win a World Series, they're pissed off.
Absolutely.
You look at the draft over the last 5 to 7 years, it's all SEC players. There's no SEC bias. They're just kicking ass over the rest of college football. Do you agree with that?
I do, 100%. Absolutely. I mean, you see it. You're seeing it in the game we're watching right now. It looked like from the second snap of the game, Michigan was like, wow, they're a lot faster in person than I thought they'd be on tape. Just overmatched. The physicality, the speed. I mean, you could literally see there was a couple of cutaway shots of Michigan players, mouths wide open, mouthpiece in the ground, eyes as big as saucers. Because when you watch it on tape, it's one thing. To see it on the field, hold up your story.
You know, Greg has bitterness for decades. So Greg says, since the 90s, I've been despising that school in Ann Arbor since the 70s. So Greg has hated Michigan for years. But thank you, Jersey girl, for the tie, getting compliments for the tie look here between me and Joe. But Joe, I will say this too. I talked about this in the opening against Cincinnati against Alabama. And I'm like, guys, please, you got to do something. You got to do something different against an elite team, right? And I brought up, obviously, one of the best Super Bowl plays ever, the Philadelphia the special right here where Nick Foles scores a touchdown. We see Georgia do a trick play, hand the ball off to their running back, and then their wide open receiver in the end zone. Joe, when you have 10, 14, 17 days off and you're playing in a national championship and you're playing in the college football playoffs, you got to come up with trick plays here. Michigan's got to do something at the second half that Georgia hasn't seen.
Yeah, I mean, they tried. They tried the flea flicker. It wasn't there, and I give McNamara credit. A lot of quarterbacks, Taylor Heineke, would have forced that throw down the field, but he saw it wasn't available, so he took the dump off to the running back. But you're right. I agree with you. We don't agree on a lot, but I 100% agree with you. When it's a championship, when you're playing for a championship or a right to play in the championship game, and you haven't been in this position in eons, all bets are off, man.
Joe, and again, you're a Washington football fan. Why are you taking shots at Taylor Heineke? Like, we're not even talking about Washington football right now.
Because that was a horrible throw. It just shows you what a good what McNamara did, what you're supposed to do. The play is not there. You take what's available. What was available was a dump down.
Right. Now, we said in the early show, I said, I really believe that Cincinnati didn't understand what it was like to play in the college football playoffs. They've never been there before. Jim Harbaugh, for all his experience, Michigan has not been there since 1997, a big time bowl where national championship implications are on the line. Georgia has been there before. And I think, like you said, Herb Street said it too. He goes, it's almost like Michigan, after the first drive and got scored on, they got knocked down and they haven't been able to recover. So do you think all the pressure they're starting to feel like, damn, maybe we're not as good as we thought we were?
I think that's a combination of that. And I also think, too, something I've been talking to a lot of people about is look at the different conferences. I think conference play is a big factor in this. As a Michigan fan, our big games are obviously the team from Ohio State, which we hate with all our hearts. Then you talk about Michigan State, and that's really it. Whereas in the SEC, week in and week out, you're playing against really tough competition. And I'd even take it a step further and say, some of the teams you might consider to be the bottom of the totem pole and the SEC would probably be middle of the road if they came to the Big Ten, because there's that much depth of talent, and you're seeing that. We definitely got punched in the mouth and haven't gotten up at all. We're still bleeding.
And one of the things that we thought going into this game, I thought Georgia was going to win, but you thought Michigan's defense would be able to neutralize some of their plays. And you think of Georgia over the years, the Sony Michels, Garrison Hurst, Todd Hurley, going back even to Terrell Davis,
Yeah.
the plethora of running backs that Georgia sends to the NFL. And you look at Georgia and you say, hey, they're a running team, but their quarterback has picked you guys apart.
Yeah, and that was supposed to be the weak link.
Right.
We wanted to force him to be the person to have to win the game. He stepped up to the challenge for sure. I mean, hats off to Georgia. Kirby Smart's done it all right so far in this first half. I mean, like we talked about, the trick play, being aggressive on defense. We wanted to have their defensive linemen running back and forth and trying to get them gassed. Well, they were running back and forth, but we were getting 3 and outs. So those long drives were not being sustained at all.
Were you concerned when they went for it? It was definitely a long field goal try. I thought it was the right move, and even though they didn't convert early on that fourth down when they didn't get it. Did you want them to try to kick a long field goal there?
Yeah, I wouldn't have gone for it. I thought that was a bad call.
Oh, so you would have kicked the field goal?
Yeah, kick the field goal or punt it, obviously. But I thought going for it was a bad idea because, like we said, to our point, you already had the, oh my God, is this really what it's like face from the players already.
Mm-hmm.
So to go for it on fourth down and not get it, it just added on to that anxiety.
And one of the things I was telling my brother, we were watching the game, and he's like, "What are you kicking the field goal here?" I said, "Pete, sometimes in this game, you got to feel good about yourself. And when you're trailing big, you kick a field goal, you get points, you feel good. Okay, guys, let's get some momentum." But it just doesn't seem like, Michigan was driving there. They throw an interception. It just doesn't look like Michigan has any momentum. They get the ball starting the second half. What do they need to do to feel good about themselves and say, hey, we're not going to get blown out. We're going to come back now.
Touchdown, got to score, not a field goal. You got to get 6. You got to get 6, and that defense needs to make some adjustments. I mean, the defense was talked about a lot by Michigan for a reason, and you didn't see any of those reasons in the first half. I mean, you got guys ball watching, getting lost on long passes, some missed tackles, but you got to come out and you got to get 6. Coming out, having a long drive and getting a field goal is not going to cut it.
So last year, one of the things I didn't take into factor was that Ohio State, a team that you despise, all year they play in their locker room, in their weight room, they played videos of them losing to Clemson the year before. They came back in the Final Four and they smacked the hell out of Clemson.
Yep.
This was their Justin Fields, the Chicago Bear quarterbacks now, had a game of his life. They dominated, and they said they needed that motivation. It fueled them all in the offseason. Now, Georgia doesn't have an offseason, but they're hearing they can't beat Alabama. They can't beat Alabama. People forget how good Georgia was until they lost in the SEC championship game. I'm kind of leading right now, Joe, to Georgia. They played one bad game. I know Kirby Smart, Nick Saban has only lost one time this year. He lost to Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher, the only time he ever lost to his assistant. I'm kind of leaning right now that Georgia's going to win this national championship game, if they get by Michigan. What are your thoughts?
I got burned once going up against Nick Saban with my Cincinnati pick. I'm not doing it again. I'm still working on the draft of my apology letter to the Alabama Crimson Tide fan base and football team. So I'm not going that far.
I mean, Georgia played one bad game
You're right,
against
though.
Alabama, and they look amazing tonight. They've looked amazing all year.
No, you're definitely right. They only had that one bad game, but I mean, there's just something about Alabama, man. I just they always find a way. I mean, I think about the Iron Bowl where I thought they were down and out. They find a way to get the win done. For Georgia to beat Alabama, they need a repeat performance like they're having tonight, as far as being aggressive and jumping on them early. You got to get on those guys early. You can't have fourth downs where you go for it and don't get convert. You can't have drop passes, bad penalties. For them to beat Alabama, you have to take advantage of the opportunities you're given.
You know, it's amazing because as a former coach and just watching coaches, the psychological game that is played. In practice, I used to beat my guys up, beat them up. The 2 days before a game, everything was you're great. We're gonna blow this team out. Nick Saban, after this game, which they didn't play particularly well, he was like, I love our team. I love how they fought. I love the resolve. He's like, this was a great game for us. Let's be honest. This was not a pretty game offensively. They ran the ball, but their Heisman Trophy winner didn't throw the ball at all well. He looked extremely uncomfortable. If there's another team that can make Bryce Young, the Heisman Trophy winner, look uncomfortable, it is Georgia and their defense, even though they didn't do it. When they played in the SEC championship game. Remember a few years ago, Tua looked horrible, and it wasn't until Jalen Hurts, who's now the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles, came off the bench to win it.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, Georgia definitely has the tape to watch to what they made mistakes, what needs to be improved. I mean, one thing that's a glaring that I remember from that SEC championship game is that Georgia did not blitz Alabama hardly at all. So I mean,
Right.
I'll tell you what, if there's a rematch, that's one thing I'm sure will change off Jump Street is they'll be more aggressive. I'm excited there. If there's a part two, I'm down for it. I've definitely seen in my little interactions on Twitter a lot of people who are rolling their eyes saying, "Oh my God, Alabama and Georgia again." They're two head-knocking elite football teams, two great coaches. I would not be upset to watch it again. I mean, would I rather see Michigan play Alabama? I would, but based on what I saw in the first half, unless we have one of the greatest comebacks in the history of college football, I don't see it. I don't see it coming.
Okay. So my brother Pete brought up a great point, and I don't know. This should be a drinking game. I mentioned him 3 times in the show already. So let's all give a cheers to my brother Pete. Cheers. But he said, he goes, do we want to see Alabama and Georgia again? And this is my whole thing. As someone who coached, as someone who played, as someone who respects greatness, LeBron James leads the NBA in his 18th year, scoring 30. He has the most 30-point games scored this year. It's kind of sad that it's his 18th year and he still has to do that.
Yeah.
But I respect greatness. So are you saying Georgia, Alabama is bad for college football? Will the ratings be down? Because I got to be honest with you, a lot of people did not watch the Super Bowl yet last year because they didn't want to see Tom Brady again.
I don't think it's bad for college football. Those are two huge fan bases, and you'll have people that are outside those fan bases that will want to watch that game as well. I think that that's a minority of people that scream to the heavens, yelling at clouds. It's bad for college football. I mean, talk to the other teams and the other teams around the country. Improve your recruiting, improve your facilities, get better. Take on those challenging games, and you can look at Cincinnati. Look what Cincinnati did to get there. Yeah, they lost, but the path they had to do and the steps they had to follow to get into this opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I see it is, it's interesting, Joe, because are we seeing a trend in college football right now? In March Madness, we're seeing a lot of mid-major, smaller schools who have juniors and seniors now advance deep into the college football, college basketball March Madness playoff, get to the Sweet 16, get to the Elite Eight. And we're seeing teams like Kentucky, teams like Duke, who have one and done players, freshmen, who have been struggling over the last years. We're seeing more mid majors with the maturity and men playing. Are we going to see now more of the Cincinnati's, more of these schools that are not in the SEC, not in the Big Ten, not in the Pac-12, or is Cincinnati just a one and done type of deal here?
I think Cincinnati might have just broken the code. I think they might be the first of many because I'm with you. When you have guys that, I mean, if you had taken a look at some of the number of starts some of those Cincinnati players had in their careers, 30, 35, 40 games under their belt.
That's what I'm
That's
saying. Like
that's
more
you and I
experience.
in the
Yeah.
weight room together. That's you and
Yeah.
I watching film together, going to class together. You get to know me, and I get to know you. I think Cincinnati is just the start of the rise of the mid majors in football.
So you're thinking this is going to be a trend, a lot like college basketball.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you still have your blue buds in college football. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I would not be surprised if we start seeing blips on the radar where every couple of years or every season you see a Cincinnati type team. I'm not necessarily sure about making the college football playoffs, but making a significant big time bowl game, which is a big payday for the school.
Yeah, it's definitely a big payday. People don't realize how much money actually goes in to your university when you get to a big time
Yeah.
major college football. So again, Joe, we talked about this early. Got a lot of new people in the chat room. If this is college football playoffs, and again, neither game is competitive, I'm going to say it again. We don't need more teams in the playoff. If I was running college basketball right now, no one watches the regular season. Okay, the ratings are worse than the WNBA for a regular season game in college basketball. Growing up, you know this, Big Monday, right? They'd show the
Yep.
Big East at 7, they'd show the Big 10, and then the Pac-12. I would stay up late to watch those games. So my point is, we don't need more teams. You have to keep it at 4, Joe, because the competition is going to be watered down. Let's say, for argument, Alabama was the number 1 seed and the number 8 seed was the Oregon Ducks. My Oregon Ducks, if Alabama's smacking Cincinnati, they're going to beat the hell out of Oregon. It's not competition, Joe. Not everyone gets a trophy.
We'll have to agree to disagree on that. I mean, I didn't have a problem with the BCS system, to be honest with you, Monty. I was not anti-BCS. College football is never going to be college basketball. You're never going to have a 16 seed beat a 1. You're not going to have a 15 beat a 2. If people are looking for college basketball to be replicated on the football field, they're sadly mistaken. I'll definitely say that.
Okay, Joe, Michigan's about to take the field. We got about 2 minutes left. First, I want to say, as a Michigan fan, since you said you weren't even a huge fan in 1997, I mean, you were, but you didn't really understand the significance of it. Now that you're back in the Final Four, what has Harbaugh meant to this program? And I said earlier, I give him credit, Joe, because he's winning his way. He's running the ball. It's Mike Ditka's system, right?
Yeah.
He's running the ball. He's playing defense. He got to the Final Four. A lot of people wanted him out of Michigan, but now he's kind of warmed up. And what do you see for him moving forward and this program going over the next 3 to 5 years?
I just got to get better at recruiting. I mean, it's the evidence is right there on the field. We're seeing it tonight. Speed. We got to get speed. We have to get a better quarterback play. I think this is huge for recruiting. When you can say that, hey, we in this century we made a college football playoff. We are relevant. I mean, we have facilities. We have the Jordan brand on our jerseys. It's all about getting the right players and the right coaching. I give him credit for getting rid of some of the coaches he got rid of this season, implementing a new defense. Even though they're getting gashed right now against Georgia, huge improvements we saw this season from the Michigan defense. So I think there's a lot of positives to take away from this season for sure.
Okay, and now on the flip side, you know what? If I'm Kirby Smart, I look at this and I'm fired up, right? I'm like, I'm gonna beat my old coach. I'm gonna beat this SOB a lot. But there's so much pressure on this guy now, right, Joe? I mean, there's so much pressure on Kirby Smart to
Absolutely.
finally beat Alabama. How do you deal with that pressure if you're the head coach?
I mean, it comes to the territory. It ain't his first rodeo. He's been dealing with it since he got the job. I mean, even when they weren't elite, Georgia fans still expected him to be at least competitive with Alabama. I think he just used this all as fuel.
And okay, let's say Georgia wins. Okay, you're taking Alabama in the national championship.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done going up against Coach Saban. I apologize, Alabama fans.
I really, I don't want to go against Alabama. I'm going to have an article on Nuts and Bolts Sports this week, breaking this game down. But I'm leaning towards Georgia right now. They had one bad game, and
You're
Kirby
right.
Smart. I mean, I look at this Georgia team, and their weakness was supposed to be passing, and they're dominating right now in the passing game. Their defense is probably the fastest in college football. And if Cincinnati again can make the Heisman Trophy winner look bad, what can Georgia do a second time once they've seen him?
Yeah, no, there's a good point you bring up, but you also have to remember there's practice time. There's time to watch film, things to improve on. I'm sure Alabama is not satisfied with their performance at all on the offensive side of the ball. Protections, getting players involved. There's probably some guys that are banged up that we didn't even know about being banged up, have a couple of days to get healthy. I mean, obviously for college football and people that hate Alabama, they would love to see Georgia not just make the final, but beat the Crimson Tide as well. But like I said, I'm not doing it anymore. I took the leap yesterday. I put myself out there. I'm going back to my seat on the bandwagon until the bus stops.
All right, Joe, listen, 2022 is definitely going to be our year. First, I want to thank you on air. You give me a free reign to basically do whatever I want. Thank you for believing in me and giving me the freedom to write whatever I want, have whatever guests I want. I know there are times where I may have put political stuff on and you were like, oh my God, what are you doing, Monty? But I appreciate everything you've done. Talk about Nuts and Bolts Sports, what we're doing in 2022.
Oh man, a lot's going on. More and more video. I'll tell you that much. Written content. It was funny. We literally today, I think it was like 1 o'clock, got our last new writer for the year. His name is Rick, and he's actually a sports performance trainer. So he'll be interviewing some of the biggest names in sports training across the country. He knows NFL guys, NBA, MLB trainers. That's a brand new a lane we've never been in before. Having the ability to talk to those people and get their faces in front of our cameras and talk to them and ask them questions. So you'll see a lot more video content from us. Written, hopefully, as the pandemic.
TikTok?
Yeah, that too as well. Yeah, for sure. We're pretty much going to do what we've always been doing, just better, just leveling up. That's what we try to do every year. I mean, tomorrow's Nuts and Bolts Sports birthday. We'll turn 7 years old tomorrow, so I'm proud of that, and I want to thank you, Monty, for being along for the ride since day one, literally.
Yeah, no, I appreciate everything you do. I really believe, I talk with Rico, talk with you, talk with George Lopez, and they're all like, this has got to be the year for us. You guys work too hard. We put so much into this. So I really appreciate you. And for those of you watching, on Sunday, Gus Frerotte, former NFL quarterback, played with the Minnesota Vikings, Detroit Lions, Miami Dolphins. He joins our show every 2 weeks. So gives us unique perspective on that. All right, Joe, give us a final score here for the Michigan game. Do they make a run here?
Oh, my gosh. I don't even know, man. I'll say I know that Georgia's going to be all gas, no brakes with this thing. So I'm going to say 42-27, Georgia. Okay. And if I'm wrong, turn your phone off because I'm going to be going crazy.
And what is your drink of choice tonight, Joe?
Oh, well, right now I've been sticking with the Stella, and then I got the Rosé ready to go.
Okay. All right.
Because I got what's keeping me positive in this whole situation, Monty, is knowing if this game starts to make me angry,
Cobra Kai.
Cobra Kai.
Exactly.
I'm good.
And I'm so proud of myself because I can't just watch one episode. I have not watched. People have been emailing me and texting me. Oh my God, I'm up to episode 3. I'm like, don't tell me, no spoilers. I'll watch it tomorrow. Joe, have a safe and happy New Year. We'll see you down the road. I'm sure on the Full Monty Sports Show. Appreciate you taking the time out, and I see you change your tie as well, like I did.
It's all Michigan. I'm Michiganed out, man.
I love it. Hey, man, enjoy the second half. I hope they get a touchdown or 2 for you.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year to you. I want to thank Joe. I want to thank you guys for listening. Again, make sure to subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube channel. Make sure to give us a thumbs up on this show. We will be live Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern, with Rico, Show Me the Money Graziano, and of course, like I mentioned, Gus Frerotte. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the second half. Everyone have a safe and happy New Year. You have a record that will never be broken.
You can't cheat.